I don't need it.
Half the sense.
Hi.
Hi.
Excuse me.
You would sign my name. Yes, please. Yeah, sure.
Well, I saw some farms. I was away last week.
Wow, you get stars.
Every kind
You
of
don't
farm.
fit through the,
Bird that I can see in the Central Valley up in California.
fit through the,
There you go.
Up and down on all of them.
wow.
Right together, they had
Jake one
Right in
raised,
the
and
middle.
put the motion back
one
on.
little section
Actually,
acres.
the bushel between the rim
Right on
and
the
the
far
stump.
corner, there was an auction up there. Some farmers that own themselves and run right there.
Yeah, we put a bigger, we don't have room for a bigger.
Deep
side.
cow auction.
Drill them down.
And then rows and rows and rows of apples. Rice.
We had neither,
Oh,
that's,
oh my God.
you know, we lost in rims, every place is
Supposed to be the richest land in the world.
You sent me
Did he?
So, Virgil was the worst, so we ordered up to 40 bands. So, Marge said they don't work at pump sensation. So when you see
Hello there. Over in California, Colorado. Got that? I'm not missing no time.
Still gonna keep talking to me.
you see a bill there for 40, this thing's pushing, so you're gonna know.
Battery ran out.
Yeah. We're not building 302s. I don't think he did anything to him. We tried to get him through Napa, but there's only 10 nationwide.
Actually, it's 240.
But it's probably because there's lots of places that don't find what they're using.
Yeah.
What is the end of that?
Well, Lawrence thought of it, maybe a bunch of other times, places that thought of it.
Hi.
So maybe there's a run on them.
Yeah. How did you figure that out?
Well, I don't know. You never know. The worst, it's cheap insurance.
I'll tell you.
Colorado, we're up. Good look around here, too, and hit the continental divide up on top. It's really steep and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. I went out, we went to Albany to Budbury, Druck, to LAX, and then we flew from there down to Cleveland to the city this last night.
Call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or amendments to the minutes of the last regular meeting?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's adopted. All right,
Okay, guys, I'm not sure what exactly you got in place. You have a master plan. Okay, I've read that master plan. Is that all that you've got in place to protect the village, the town? Just asking right now before we start.
Well, the village is separate from the town.
Okay. What do you have in place for the village?
That's all. I don't know anything about the
How about the town?
town has got the master plan.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's supposed to protect us from heavy industry? I just read.
They said it was.
You look all around you, you're seeing moratoriums everywhere, sweeping the state, okay? You're seeing gas being zoned out, okay? You've got to have something in place here. You're leaving everybody open. You're leaving everybody open to
That's not going to stand up.
Oh, well, certainly it's going to stand up.
It's not going to stand up.
Why not?
Governor Cuomo is going to have something.
All right. Hey, let's set the ground rules.
Okay. Yep.
Go ahead with your speech.
Got it. Okay. I am here tonight to once again ask the town board to take some immediate action using the Morris Master Plan of 1987 as a basis to place a moratorium on gas drilling in our town. The master plan provides a basis for local control and detailed land use ordinances and states that all residents and visitors have a right to a clean, safe environment, protected from pollution of water, air, and soil, or soil by toxic and noxious materials. I make this request on behalf of over 400 town residents who signed the petition to ban gas drilling in our town. A petition, by the way, which was largely ignored by you, our elected officials. The petition signers are, by the way, not newcomers, radicals, or fringe elements. They are your friends and neighbors and represent all political parties, income levels, and ages who care about our water, our air, our roads, our property values, and our way of life, all of which are threatened if gas drilling is allowed here. You as a board have voiced your objections to a ban or a moratorium on what you consider the threat of lawsuits by property owners who have leases and the natural gas industry. 2 weeks ago, 2 such lawsuits were dismissed by Supreme Court judges. And by the way, no mention was ever made about personal liability of the board members from Dryden and Middlefield town boards. We ask, what are your objections now? There is a legal basis for a town that does not have zoning in place to draft a moratorium, and we can obtain legal assistance to do this. But you need, as our elected officials, to, at the very least, agree to look at drafting this law and bring it before the town at a public hearing. This has nothing to do with home rule. We got to do something more than you got.
Okay, Murray, what about property owners? What about their rights? You're starting to stand up. You're not a majority right now.
I don't mean to ruffle your feathers. I don't mean to ruffle your feathers, but you're talking about how many people versus the population of this town and village?
You're not a majority.
I'm specifically talking about protection. That's all. I don't want to get in an argument here.
Thanks.
Okay? I haven't. Has anybody got anything to say to how we're going to go about protecting?
Suggest you go to the town of Smyrna and see what they did to protect.
And what did they do?
Go see. I don't know what they did. I was here a couple of months ago just to look around and get the feel of Morris. My wife and I bought property here a couple of years ago and remodeled and moved in. And this was high on the agenda. And I thought I had read both sides of everything going on. By the way, my name is Derek Woodendyke. Sorry. Somebody here said, well, have you ever been to Dimmock? I said, good idea. So I went to Dimmock, and I went to Smyrna to find out what I could find out without asking anybody sides before I went. I drove around the town of Smyrna, and I found 4 what I thought were wells.
Would
let's get some sort of ordinance. Let Murray finish.
Okay,
and
sure.
Then you'll have the opportunity if anybody else.
Okay, I've read the master plan. It's been in place since, what, 1987? That does not protect the town from drilling at all.
No, it was put in place because of Butternut's experience with bringing toxic waste up out of New York City and dumping them down on one of the hills in back of Gibbertsville, where they had a lot of different things, and why that was generated at the time.
Okay, well,
That I know.
I go into here and I look at some of the excerpts,
And it touched on other things, it did.
but it won't protect us from that type of heavy industry. And what I'm asking is,
You asked about it, and I said that's why it was done and how it was written.
what I'm asking is, if a master plan was going to hold up across New York State, people would have not went to zone gas out. They wouldn't have went with moratoriums. They would have stuck with their master plan. It's not sufficient against a heavy industry like gas drilling.
Murray, what's heavy industry?
Okay? More than happy to tell you. You asked me that the other day. You said, who wouldn't give you a definition?
Nobody has ever given me.
Definition of heavy industry relates to a type of business that typically carries a high capital cost. Capital intensive, high barriers to entry, and low transportability. The term heavy refers to the fact that items produced by heavy industry used to be products such as iron, coal, oil, ships, etc. Today, the reference also refers to industries that cause disruption to the environment in the form of pollution, deforestation, okay? Right there.
So in other words, that means
It's right there.
In other words, that means about everything.
Covers the gas industry.
You can cover anything you want.
Covers a lot. Yeah, it covers a lot.
Or you can cover as little as you want.
My point here that I'm trying to make is that master plan is not going to hold up. If it was going to hold up in other townships, they would have stuck with their master plan. They're not sticking with it. They're sticking with moratoriums. They're sticking with zoning out. If you don't have zoning, you go with moratoriums. And another point I want to make, moratoriums are not the kiss of death to those that want to be drilled. They're simply an insurance policy. All right? So you can study the effects of hydrofracking before it comes in, okay? It gives you extra time to make decisions on a town board. It's not the end of all. And that's my point I'm trying to make here. And the biggest point I'm making, why can't we sit down and do something concrete? The master plan is not going to cut it. And we're in 2012 now, the real world. That's why I'm asking now, what can we do? I'm asking somebody to step forward. Yeah. I haven't got an answer. You're not going to give me an answer. Really? Well, that's on the record. You're not giving me an answer.
Mr. Warden, Knight?
All I was going to say is what I found in the town of Smyrna was the town is very, very happy to have hydrofracking. I found 4 wells. I was flabbergasted when I found out later that there were over 40 drilled. They have, I don't know, I didn't go and ask any deep questions of any local town board members, but I could go back and I'm sure find a couple and talk to them and see what kind of provisions they put in before they allowed it. Everybody seems very happy with the way things have gone on up there. There's over 40 wells. They've had over $1 million a year being deducted from their school taxes because of it. Nobody claimed anything about any huge disruption. There was a construction for a while. It was come and gone. They're still there. The wells are still there. They're still making money. They're still going to be making money. The towns are for the next 8 or 10 years, and nobody's dissatisfied. When I went to Dimmick, I have no idea what Dimmick looked like 10 years ago. And I know that there were people with agendas on both sides of the issue. I found a lot more people that were in favor of what had happened than were not in favor of what had happened. So I don't know the area at all from the past. But I would say that somebody from here, if you want me to go up and find out what I can, I will. Find out from Smyrna how they went about insuring the residents against damages. Nobody claims anything about water being polluted. Dimmick, they said 3 or 4 times as many people that I spoke with said that there was methane and water down there 10 or 20 or 30 years before fracking started. So that a lot of that they thought was an agenda type of issue. But people have been protected in a lot of areas to the point where they're pleased with what's going on. And if we could do something to knock $1 million a year off our school taxes, I think most of the taxpayers would be happy.
At what price, though?
Pardon?
At what price?
Right, exactly. At what price?
No, at what price? Okay. I follow the gas industry closely, okay? At what
Okay.
price do you want to bring in? You think you're going to save on school taxes?
At what point?
You're talking about a heavy industry, okay?
Maybe.
Please just limit your to making the comments, not debating the issues.
Just to say, I follow it closely, and you may have some good stories in Pennsylvania, but there's a lot of horror stories down there.
There are.
If there wasn't, you wouldn't be having what was going on in the interstate right now.
How many wells have been drilled in this country, and how many horror stories are there?
You've had a lot of wells drilled in this country, a lot of vertical wells. You're talking about high volume hydrofracking. It's only been in use for roughly 9 years in heavy use, okay? You're talking about sand, chemicals, and water under high pressure. It is relatively new. There have been very few health assessment studies done on it because they haven't had the time to do so. We don't even want to mention Corbett in Pennsylvania. What he's done, he's stripped local municipalities of home rule and everything. Period. I mean, it's a horror story down there. I don't want to see that come up here. Okay, there's a lot. You know, there's a lot of horror stories down there.
Yeah.
There is endemic. You're bringing up endemic because that was the bullseye where it all started.
Right.
Okay, and yes, there's probably some good stories out there. I agree with you, but there's a lot of horror stories too. This isn't vertical well. This is horizontal.
Okay. I'm going to limit this now.
Okay.
It's becoming a debate. Does somebody else have a comment?
I have.
Carolyn?
I'd like to read a letter addressed to the town and village boards, which will be presented to this board at the close of business tonight and to the village tomorrow. Gentlemen, in consideration of Attorney General Eric Snyderman's renewed emphasis on ethics in government and disclosure of conflicts of interest under the laws of the Federal and State Freedom of Information Act, we are hereby requesting the following information. A copy of the written code of ethics governing the conduct of the elected officials in the town and village of Morris. Number 2, a complete disclosure of any and all possible conflicts of interest, including gas leases, commitments for leases through gas drilling, landowner coalitions, and or active involvement or leadership roles as members of local landowner coalitions by representatives of the Morris town and village government or members of their immediate family. And 3, disclosure of any and all contracts with oil and gas, contacts with oil and gas industry representatives or landowner coalition leaders since January of 2008, including promised or proposed offers of financial benefit to the community as a result of permitting gas extraction within the town and village of Morris. In addition to the above information, we request copies of the following records for the town and village of Morris for the period from January 2009 through the current date. Number 1, a complete listing of any and all contracts or business agreements with vendors, businesses, suppliers. And 2, a printout of general ledger activities showing any and all cash receipts and cash disbursements for the period specified above. We are also requesting a written report on the current status of the Town of Morris agreement with Delta Engineering regarding road use planning, as well as scheduling a timely appointment with either the town supervisor or the village clerk so that 2 members of our organization may review the plans that have been developed to date in conjunction with Delta Engineering. And lastly, we request a written explanation for the sudden dissolution of the gas drilling committee that had been formed by the town board immediately following our organization's presentation of the signed petitions calling for a ban on heavy industry, including gas drilling. The statement made by the town supervisor during the town board meeting that this committee was disbanded because it made him uncomfortable is not reasonable justification for having disbanded this important committee. Your prompt attention to the above FOIL requests will be greatly appreciated. According to New York laws, governments have 5 days in which to respond to FOIL requests. Respectfully submitted, the Advocates for Morris.
You have a copy of that for him?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just to say that you can't, and you guys know that you can't be sued by a landowner or a leaseholder if you put a moratorium in. You have absolute immunity. You have absolute immunity. Would you like me to read it to you? It's brief. It's brief.
We'll continue on.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I just have a quick question. And I'm always going to be laughing about the crazy thing. At the meeting last month, we saw the presentation on the water project, and there was a map that he gave to you. Is that displayed in your office?
Yes, it's in my office.
But it's displayed there, or it's just in there? Because I thought we were going to post that someplace so people could see the extent of where that project was, that it was included. Do you remember that?
The map is on file in smaller version.
But the diagram that he used, that we were looking at over here, that you took in the office,
Yeah.
where is that displayed?
It's sitting in my office.
So if somebody wants to see it, does
They just have to ask.
just come into the office on the days that you're here at a certain time? I know, you took it in there to protect it from the Boy Scouts, I think you said, or whoever meets in the building, so I understand that. But, okay, so it is on display in there, posted.
It's
In there,
sitting
but
up
it-
against the wall.
Okay, it's, all right. I thought we had talked about it being on display someplace that you can see it. But we can talk about that another time. maybe.
I'm going to ask Jonathan to explain this voucher here for all of you. What it is, so there's no misunderstanding, so that no one feels there's anything that's been done illegally or anything else.
Our tools down at the highway barn, things are starting to turn metric. The backhoe and the newer trucks and the tractor are all new enough to require metric wrenches to work on them, and we didn't have any. And Royce was in Florida, picked us up $300 worth of, basically $300 worth of metric wrenches to take a tire off the backhoe. When I started there, we'd have to go across the street to Jerry Fuchs or over to Royce's shop or somewhere else to borrow a socket to go on our air gun. Now we can do that. Now we have metric wrenches. He picked them up down in Florida and brought them back for us.
You're about the sort of the price of being here.
This is to reimburse him for his expense.
We charged them to our charge account. There's only one on one page, which is circled. The rest of them was ours, and the other ones I bought strictly for the town of Morris. And they're all there and all accounted for. And it was exactly what we paid for them. Everything's there, credit card charges, everything else is there. So I just wanted to share that so that everybody knew that.
Probably $2,000 to purchase them locally. We appreciate you bringing them back for us first.
Huh? 20 tons here, 30 tons here.
30 tons.
$30.
Yeah.
Buy one here and buy one.
30-ton bottle jack.
I found that pretty good, go ahead, about how much.
That's terrible.
That's the piston bushings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they hooked in between the two lines? Oh, okay.
We torqued the lug nuts to 500 pounds. The stress of the crowns and dirt roads and the corners and stuff. Get those rims shucking back and forth.
Yep.
And, hubs are $500 when we break them.
You have to go get your top model flare that's 500 pounds on it.
Well, we have a new torque wrench. I think Steve got it.
That's the one that New Lisbon's got, or had, or that's the one New Lisbon, that torque model flare that New Lisbon's got.
No.
Sometimes you ought to get that back. We want that for the graders. Special curses, they must have borrowed it and never got back here.
Right. Yeah, Lauren says it's cut down on their rims and hubs and whatnot.
Yeah, we got that.
You got it back there.
I went over to tell them that the bad part of Naylor Farm Road, where the pavements, I went over to tell them it's in their town. I went to Cooperstown and got the tax office, and they told me where the town line was, which is 279 feet from the corner of what would be John Laws. Or John Madison's. So what they did is they put a sign right on that corner marker, and they seal from that way back towards Lawrence, and reseal from the other end of the barn back towards 23. And no one ever does anything with the middle of it.
And who owns the sluice?
The sluice is ours.
Is the sluice that's past the barn is ours?
I'm afraid so.
So you
The sluice is ours, and the pavement's theirs. So I went over to Lawrence and I talked to the superintendent over there. And he said they're paving Crawford this summer, and he'd swing over and pave that stretch. So we have to go look at the sluice. That road, the road with no name, half of it.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about that sluice. I was talking the one on Peterson, or on
That's not Peterson, that's theirs.
Yeah.
Right next to John's
old house.
Yeah, that's theirs.
That's what I was hoping.
Ours is
the other
on
one's that small one, that's kind of busted, but that's a small sluice.
Our sluice is on
Crossroads.
the road with no name.
Yeah, well, that's not a big sluice. I was talking about the big sluice up there.
Yeah, that's Lawrence. And when I was there, they had they tried to sell me a truck, and they showed me about those bushings. So we figured we'd get a batch and throw them on Dave's truck. That seems to be the one that has the most problem. Probably because of his route. He has Gifford Hills.
Oh, the drain. Oh, yeah. Gets in my head. Also the testing. Has anybody got any ideas for a town attorney if we need one? Just hear blurbs on the street. Maybe we just ought to be aware in case we're going to have to get one. We got somebody in the back of our mind. I just heard words on the street that job relocation may happen. Job relocation.
Go ahead, so sorry. What did you say, Royce?
Job relocation. It's nothing. I just heard words on the street about it.
I didn't hear what you said. Go ahead.
I just somebody be aware if it does happen. Not saying it will. Mine come out of that. My story come out of that.
Is there a motion authorizing the supervisor to pay the road bills?
I'll move. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The Finance Committee met prior to the meeting, reviewed the supervisor and clerk collector's financial reports for the month of February 2012. John?
FEMA's, all our paperwork is in. Here's our FEMA report. So 61,000, which they're going to pay 75%.
75 Fed.
And 12.5 from the state.
Huh?
Bill?
Excuse me. Lake Hill's the one that goes up there by Wig Bell.
City Bell, yeah. Otherwise, Maple Grove.
Please fix Maple Grove.
I submitted $67,000 worth of damage. They kicked out 6, so they're saying $61,000. We had $6,000 worth of damage on 2 roads that aren't maintained in the winter, and they said FEMA's not reimbursing for damages on seasonal roads during this storm. So we ended up with $61,000 worth of damage. 75% will be reimbursed federal, 12.5% state. Is that right?
75 Fed, 12.5 state, 12.5.
We also have 3 sites that we were looking into mitigation. I went to the meeting on that, and culverts, they're calling level 3. The top 2 levels are buying people out and relocating them and doing major renovations to houses, and they tend to think that there's not going to be any money left for level 3. But I'm going to go ahead and submit an application for 3 sites anyway. The criteria is it gets wiped out every time there's a bad rains. We're going to try the tube on Pitsley, the tube on Peg Road down by your shop, and Filer Hill, there's a tube. It gets up.
And Big Filer?
Little Filer. I have more. Let's check from Heimers for more salvage. Yeah. Junk. We got broken parts for trucks that are long gone.
I was no when we put it for bid once, but we did that. He was good taking it back.
I'd probably ship more than we did, but those guys are keeping an eye on me and not going to let me send anything that's worth anything. Colgate and that's what I would do. Colgate and Wayne are both pack rats, and they're not going to let me get rid of anything good. So everything there is junk. The bottom half of a wing tank from a 1951 Walters. So, just freeing up some room and getting that junk out of there. Did you do anything with the personal and vacation?
We're going to set, I'm not going to change the personnel policy. I have a spreadsheet set up so that we can follow it.
Okay. And are going to copy that one every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I talked to Larry Bolton, is that his name? Suit coat?
Yes, I know.
And
They didn't ask me, so it just not cool.
They're approximating $16,000 per mile on sealing the paved roads. We got about 26 miles total paved. About 26. We got about 24 dirt. Got about 50 miles thereabouts. We need a plan on how much we're going to do. It's to my way of thinking, it'd be kind of nice to. We're behind on sealing by a couple of years. Pretty much every place we go is going to need it, but I kind of like to. Since we're kind of starting over with it, I kind of like to do it more sensible. You know, we kind of do.
Big sections.
We're do half of Cretan Hill, and then go do half of Star Corner, and then go do half of Littlewood. And it seems to me it's a lot of waste lugging that stuff from site to site. Seems we're mostly behind just about every place you look. I kind of like to start over again and do it by area, just to save on transporting the machinery from site to site, and that'd make it definitely easier to control. Looking through the files on what has been sealed, there's 2 pieces of paper in every folder every year from Suitcoat, and one of them is what they anticipated sealing that year, and the other one is what they actually did that year, and it doesn't say which piece of paper is which in the folder. So we kind of went around and looked and see what was bad and gave that a higher priority than stuff that wasn't quite so bad, but
You think you can, at this point, I guess, you and the boys, because I've been on this for 2 years, this was happening, seeing it happen. Do you think that we can jump right to a 5-year plan and get by with a 5-year plan now? Can we either hot patch or bigger patch or cold patch enough the roads that you aren't going to seal to make the worst ones last until next year and so on and so forth without losing them where we put all this capital money?
Colgate says yes, and
Well, he's had some
he's a
experience.
good resource.
That's some experience.
We can patch up the stuff. Here's a potential 5-year and
Showed me a 5-year.
a potential 4-year. I kind of like the 4-year, but
It's pushing a lot.
it's pushing. It catches up quicker, and after the 4-year, I don't know. There's advantages and disadvantages to both, but we're behind. We're behind on sealing. We're behind on dirt roads.
Gravel, did you burn your gravel base out?
You go up on Dixley and Cretin and Westville, you can see shelf out of the roads, and you can see sub-road, pretty much any dirt road you're on. They need to be topped and work. So we're behind there. Oh, we're behind it.
Well, like, you know, you take one step at a time, pick up, we gotta catch up, and we gotta do something with those ones. If you've got your truck issue with the truck with a busted frame, you know you're not gonna, so we gotta take what we've got, be able to live with it, within the budget.
It makes sense to me to have a plan on the trucks and a plan on the ceiling and a plan on updating the equipment. We have potential equipment problems on the horizon too.
Pete, how much money between rollover chips, what we budgeted in the town budget, not counting chips? Some I understand was going to go towards some equipment. How much money can we come up with?
Off the top of my head, I'm not going to answer. Did you take any of the chips? For what we have?
126.
That was rollover last year?
Yes.
That's rollover plus. We have 126 total. They haven't come out with the new.
They haven't come out with a new. I think the 126 is a rollover. I'm not sure. I got a statement from CHIPS. It said 126 on it, and there was my impression that with the state.
They probably want to do it to the budget passage.
Yeah, with the state
Has the
budget.
county got anything on chips yet?
I have to get back to you on that. I think we carried 126.
And some of that, those ceiling we used to do out of the regular budget for highway department, some of the ceiling, we used to do out of that, dust control and ceiling.
The ceiling, most of the ceiling, yes, out of general repairs.
That way,
Chip stuff has to be.
Not holding you to it, but off the top of your head, how much money
I wouldn't even.
out of general? I mean, 25,000 or 75,000?
I would have to look at it. It's off the top of my head. I'm not gonna.
Because in order to give John a plan, we've got to know what figures we got to work with.
Okay, I can look it up.
And then,
would that be the transportation committee?
we could talk about it, sit down and talk about it, and present it to the board next meeting. I would think would be the proper way of doing it. Board and sit down.
The rollover money also has to be reallocated by the state,
Okay.
so it's not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm real uncomfortable with 45, having 45 in the fleet. That's the one with
Yeah, you showed us. It's not good.
that was my first day. I'm looking around, I had a 09 inspection sticker on it. It's been, and, you know, when you're picking up trucks, on your, looks like about every 5 years or so you picked up a truck. Well, we got 5, so that's 25 years we got to get out of them. And then the New Lisbon truck was 7 years old, and that was on the regular pattern. So we have to have at that rate, we have to have the New Lisbon truck until it's 32 years old. That's not going to happen.
That single axle? It's too old. And if it's a tandem, I'd say maybe, but
The box lot.
well, we got to. When was the last time we bought a truck? What's the newest truck you got? The Lisbon, was that the last truck?
Yeah.
04 is the newest truck we got. New Lisbon's an 01. I don't know what year you
We
bought
bought
it.
that.
Last truck we bought.
That's 01.
Yeah, but we bought it
What are you using?
before. We bought it 2 years later, so we bought it in 06 maybe. So maybe 07. I mean, we're definitely due a truck. We've gone 7 years.
It's also a
Have we got
problem.
money enough in that machinery money to buy a truck this year, Pete?
You going for new?
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't mind if you buy used. We just have to. We can't wait 5 years. We're going to.
Well, that's my question. If you
30-year-old
buy
trucks.
used, John, in a way that you're saying the Lisbon's isn't going to last. So if you buy new for 7 years old and you're spending half the freaking money for something that's 6 years old, are you actually gaining anything? Where if you take a new one and take care of it, and then maybe you can pull out those years out of it.
And maybe you can have it adjusted and get a little heavier front end and rear end on
You got to spec them.
and maybe increase its chances of making it 25 years.
Bring crank car back and they spec them off. But
The only bad feature is we'll get into that urea stuff.
You're going
you
to
got to anyway. You know, you're not going to hide from it.
What's that, 2011? The 2012.
Well, you'd be getting ready to
No,
do
the
it.
urea tank, is it 2011?
No, that's 11.
Okay.
07 is the last. 08 is when they started getting. The difference between 07 and 08 is pretty great too
Yeah, for,
on the
EGR valve.
emissions, and then 11 is when the urea tanks started coming on.
Well, I'm going to make a motion, John, that we authorize you to spec up a truck. Don't release the bids, bring the specs back to us, do some research on what one might cost us, and bring it back to the highway committee when they meet, and then we can bring it to the next board meeting. Some different options.
Do you want to set up a time to meet with the? Can I have an appointment with the transportation committee?
Yeah, we can make one. There's no problem. We can meet here during Pete's business hours. I don't have a problem.
No.
Okay. Yeah. We can set that up afterwards. Yeah. So you get, a few days to get some things together, and Pete to get some figures together, and
Pittsfield has a new truck last fall, and that was, I think, 197. And
5%.
so that was it's close to 210 now, depending on what you get. I'll come up with a list of what we think we want on the specs, and look forward to the transportation committee coming down.
Unless you found a truck someplace that's only a couple of years old, I would hate to go much older than that. You know, if you could find one at that point, it would save us, you know, quite a lot of money, we could enter into that option.
Well, I found a 07, but
And then you're going out again, how many years, 9 years?
yeah, it's Lawrence, but it's a single. And,
No, you don't want those things.
the singles they aren't as safe.
And
Well, we don't
probably
have-
feel they run up down the road with 7 tons on it.
They don't get going as good. They don't stop as good. You're more apt to
Material today.
brake traction with them, and then we don't have our own bank, and we have to bring in all our materials, and so that's twice as many trips to the gravel bank and back with a single axle as it is with a tandem, and they're within 10% price wise. So I would think it'd be foolish to have a single axle the way things are at the moment. Right.
Just jumping just a little bit. Are you going to bid your gravel? Are you going to get quotes on it?
Yeah.
Could you get quotes 2 different ways? Cost of field today, could you get cost quotes today from you guys trucking out of the bank or delivered to, say, like the landfill, the site or something like that, where you could stockpile it and just compare it?
Yes.
Take wear and tear on trucks, what they cost, last some trucks wear out. Some of these truckers are 100 a day.
Good.
And just see what the difference would be.
Yep. It's been. Can we get some new shirts? I was going to do that first because it's cheaper than the truck. But I kind of wandered around and did it. We got a couple. What's that? Well, it'd be less than this. It'd be less than the highways. I was thinking, some guys have been there a long time and they got shirts enough and whatnot, but the vest was supposed to be replaced periodically, and they haven't in a while. And they have different grades of T-shirts, and we don't have any in-between stuff. We have the heavy winter stuff, and we have the summer stuff, but no in-between stuff. I was thinking maybe you could allow me to have a set dollar amount per guy, and we can just kind of get them what they need up to that amount.
An apparel allowance.
Well, they get the T-shirts from Joe's, and they're like $7 or something like that. But they don't have any of the reflector stuff on it. And so when we're out with chainsaws and the chipper, we have to wear the vest, which are loose. I don't know. $50, $100 each, something like that. And so you got T-shirts all you want, and you don't mind the vest, but you want a sweatshirt, or just give them some flexibility in what they want instead of. Those vests are kind of loose fitting. We're running around with chainsaws and a chipper,
Mm-hmm.
But instead of saying, here's your shirts, I thought it might be decent to give the boys a little flexibility.
I give a motion to give the guys a stipend of $50 each to buy the shirts and the vests, the protective clothes in there, colored clothing they want. They can use it as long as they're the colors that you need to have.
Thank you.
That'll be
Actually, you pay the bill when you get the bill to you. Huh?
Well, it's stipend you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just here, but I'd rather get it and have them build a pound for it than $50.
No, we'll do it and charge it, and we'll keep track of it and our dollar limit in-house, and then we just submit the bill.
Okay, well, that wouldn't be something. But it'd be a credit that, you know, it'd be up to the
Yeah, because they all want something different, you know? But I'll keep track of that myself.
So anything else you need? You told me you got quite some of the stuff done at the town barn. I wasn't at the last meeting. Fixed up, and you made a recommendation to me about doing some sprucing up around the building. What was your idea on that?
Well, Lukey's building, the roof leaks, and the driveway is higher than the sill. And on the big barn, as they did pave it, they'd have a little left over, they'd come slap it on our driveway. Our driveway is higher than our floor in the shop. We have radiant heat in the floor, so in the winter, the snow outside melts and it runs cold water across the floor. I'd like to blow out our paved driveway and just stick the gravel in there. We don't need a paved driveway. All our trucks are running around in dirt all the time anyway. But it'd be nice to direct the water away from the main building. It'd be nice to direct the water away from Lukey's building to try to save the sill on that. Lukey's building is just awful looking. I have a commercial spray rig. You give me the paint, I can turn everything white. Won't last like the steel. One side of the main building has steel on it. The other, both gable ends and the front side don't. But there's not a lot of surface area on the front side. It's mostly overhead door.
Sometime I still like to finish that. That was right after we started that.
Yeah, but
Not for now. Certainly, we can't do everything.
we can slap a coat of paint on it and look good for a couple of years, and then see about the steel maybe down the road. But it'd be nice to get the water away from these buildings. It's going to do them in.
Yep, we get costly. I think that you should probably either you put some gravel on there, dust oil, or put some, I hate to see calcium out or something on it just to hold the dust down for around the yard there. The people you're racing around there, we just have to make a mess. But you wouldn't have to do anything very expensive.
I just remember something else that I didn't put on the list. Trucking water. The fire department give us the tank off their old tanker truck sits down there. And what we can do with that, we can take the wheel loader and either set that on our flatbed trailer or set it in the back of a truck box and transport the water we need for whatever we need.
Go on the road when you're home or something.
Yep. Yeah. And we got to thinking it'd be awful nice to go across the street and buy an old frame and rear end off Jerry and mount the thing right on there and make a trailer out of it. If we had a rear end out of a truck, we could plumb it up for the air brakes and lights, and then we wouldn't run the risk of damaging the tank, sticking it on the truck and taking it off and stuff. We can plumb it right onto its own trailer and back up to it and hitch on it.
Do you need brakes on it?
On
the trailer?
Well, I would think so. It's a pretty heavy tank. It's going to be full.
If you want to make a four-wheel wagon or trailer to pull it on,
You can use electric brakes on it.
up at my shop, been sitting there for years. Somebody gave them to me years ago, and they lay there. Last I knew was a set of tandem axles with tires on them. It sits out there, the trailer, that have got no brakes on it. There's no brake hooks on it or nothing. But if you want it, you're welcome to it if you can make it use.
Or send, or appoint somebody in charge of it and send them over.
And look, the still or something, if you're sitting right down there, but still something.
I thought that'd be handier.
How big is that guy?
2,500 maybe. 2,500, yeah. It is thick too. It's a heavy duty tank.
Yeah, maybe Tom got might have something too.
You've got a tri-axle driver with mobile axle.
Well, we thought with the weight,
You got hook up,
it'd be nice to have brakes.
you got brake controls on the truck.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You're air.
Yeah, but you want to look at it.
I think we do on, was flatbed air or electric?
That's air.
Well, I mean, if you look up, if you get on mobile home axle, tri-axle.
Right.
The only thing is, though, if they had air, they left it sitting someplace, just like an emergency brake on it, they had a set of air on their axle, because they disconnect it and lock those brakes up, and you wouldn't have to worry about it rolling downhill or something with a little bit of water on it, if you just set it someplace. That would be the only difference.
Either way, you can do it.
You know, you can see, he's got, you talk to Heinrich too, he gets them in there every freaking day, he probably sells them for just what he pays for a junk price for a cup.
Well, or talk to Jerry or talk to, we have Wayne.
Huh?
Stick Wayne in charge of this. Or talk to Jerry about it, see what they think. Probably be $1,000 or $2,000. What do you think? Maybe $2,000.
For a crane?
No, to do the whole job.
Oh,
Plumb it up.
it should be more than that.
Put the front end, you're going to have jacks on it. You're going to have to plumb it and wire it so it's got
Yeah.
brakes and
Right,
lights.
you know, if you had that welder, you could weld it up yourself and fix it.
Right. 1,500. I don't know what it costs. Somewhere in that.
Depends what you find.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark though.
Crane shouldn't cost you much.
Right.
You need a thermal action.
And when you're talking, you're talking 1,000 pounds, jumps down another $300 a ton. You didn't even have to be in receiving any, a couple $100, $250 going to be able to buy a straight cast with a rear end there. Unless the rear end was something special, but
Right.
you know, you just don't want to guts on it. You don't want
Just
to guts or anything.
normal rear end with air brakes.
Yeah, you don't want the guts in
That's
it.
it.
Take the ring and pinion out, let them have it, sell it.
So I don't have any kind of price on that, but we were thinking that might be, you know,
Maybe a way.
yeah,
I think you want four wheel though. You start bouncing on a trailer.
a lot of stuff. Probably.
So you have four-wheel, you have big axles or a tri-axle if you use mobile home. So you got $2,500.
You want tandems, you probably are. Got tandems. If you'd have it, you get more than enough. Yeah, that's a lot of weight. That's 8 pounds. So you're talking 1,600. You're talking a ton. You know, with a wagon, you may be talking a ton and a half. You're not talking any weight.
Right. Well, I'll look into it and get back to you. Tell you what our thinking is. And I'll get the bid prices between picking it up at the bank and dropping it to you.
Any other business, old or new?
Pete, I think that business situation that in this gentleman's offer to do some research for us in Smyrna and the effect of looking into some things yet that's still unclear, that I once again will try the last and final time put a motion on board for a 6-month moratorium on gas hydrocracking. And it's just gas hydrocracking in the town of Morris. I'm going to put that up for motion, and where it goes, it may go. If we had 6 months, maybe we could get some more information. We could write something up to semi-protect it. As you all know, I've been a little concerned about our water supply in the village and why they solve some situations there. I'm not against drilling in the long haul. I'm telling everybody now, but I am until we're protected. So I will bring that up for a 6-month moratorium motion, see if it goes anywhere.
Any comments?
I don't know if we need a 6-month moratorium. Why don't we just hang on and see what goes on here? I don't think we need it at all. I don't think the state's going to be, I don't know, like 6 months. So.
Well, you guys got the bid. 6 months is 6 months. I mean, it's not going anywhere. I mean, it's an insurance policy. I mean, it's a safe way to go. It's not going to limit you in the future. Drilling's not coming, okay, for a while. So what do you got to lose? I mean, my point is that you guys, you're doing a good job, but you got to protect the people, okay? You got to have some sort of an insurance policy here.
There's not going to be any drilling in 6 months.
You can't just be closed-minded on a 6-month moratorium or protecting this town. And you have just said that to me before when I was up there. You're the only one that spoke up and said you're just like totally against everything, bro. You're not.
Okay. Murray, we don't have all the facts.
A moratorium is a moratorium. 6 months. What do you got to lose?
6 months of interruption, 6 months of people working, 6 months of taxes being reduced.
You're not going to get drilling here in 6 months. For that 6 months. You're not going to.
It's not going to be.
Well, then you're putting the whole thing on for more than 6
How,
months.
how
What
is
you're
the
saying?
town benefiting? I don't understand how you think the town is going to be the one to benefit. That part's confusing me. How does the town
If the moratorium can be qualified and the Tolda Delta program, highway preservation is in place for that. I don't know how long it will take. So as far as the specific.
I consider that in highlight not so much.
And so there's no second. The motion's not brought to the table. Are there any other business?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?